다시 유럽 아래 사죠. 다음에는 도스라지나 같은데 또 다시 공부를 사거래. 다시 인고래. 다시 쇼바레스. 인도 정말 같으니 쇼바들이 인공들이 공부들이 주민이시나.
So it seems there are people from all over the world here, from the US and all these different countries, various different countries. So for some of you, it's the morning, or some of you, it's the evening, and different times of day. So I want to wish you, wherever you are, good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
Dendo dene dida dene lendo sevure nyamdo dene digindo kina basama la dene tensu di ni ta jida kina ba shoba kashi tanda langsar sire nyaro langsar sinjire te langdu gi murchi yore mud mandawa chire injikela mud sido tene ningon yendo ya ningon gi murchi yore kashi ta shela 인구 란치 사이 주말에 같이 자자네 무르카가 요구래 근데 같이 내가 레자는 롱 강발레 제더니 냐에 두슬레 이주리 무드 인도 무드 만다 이주리 에스키나 뭐 두스카가로
And at the same time, many of you, because you're in different times of day, wherever you are, you probably are all in a different moods based on whatever time. Many of you may be just waking up and in the kind of morning mood, whatever that may be, and some of you may be in the afternoon there, in the afternoon mood, and some of you may have finished working and now home from work in that kind of mood, and so on. Excuse me. So, and also some of you may be finish your day, your whole day, and work all day, and now about to sleep in that kind of sleepy mood.
Kaka mood kaka ingurichida manazo mi indu da ina tanda kapsu baba kena basangma mood kandi ina re tani tanda chi kenji kare yorsena tanda chunyegi duzuchi res chunyegi duzuchi ken tendichi lo tukde bai res tukde res.
So in this way you will everybody will be in a different kind of mood depending on the time that you're in, wherever you are. But now we should keep in mind that we are now in the situation of listening to the Dharma. This situation has come up for all of us, wherever we may be.
The mood ki nang ne da ji dusu khande la marazu ke ningung gi ke na re shobai ke na re gomo gi ke na re ken la ten mood juwa the ru ra condition la ten de indu ta dila samla ma dang wa chi ne ta di gi nang ne yaksho di da kaps pa ba chun yindu ni kulung jue simje tham je gi che du samlo ta ya di ken gi nang ne ken yaksho di res mood yaksho di.
So we all get into different moods depending on the time of the day, and all of these different moods also depend on the various conditions and various situations that we're in. If we've just woke up, then it's a certain type of condition or situation, or we just finished work and so on, then we have a different condition that will influence mood. So now the best thing to do is to leave aside all of these kind of conditions and these moods that we have, and then since we're now in the situation of listening to the Dharma and studying the Dharma, then we should put into place the best among all conditions, which is the giving rise to the motivation of a bodhichitta, that we are listening to the Dharma in order to for the welfare, in order to carry out the welfare of all sentient beings. And this is the best condition or the best mood that's possible to give yourself.
네, 나 mood 다 kenaba changma gi tene di koje yana ni kenaba changma thambod ni ra ne prepare se bore ani chi tarik ra chi ni de yobi ge rewa yes ani nye ge rewa yes semti gi to kono ti gi si shar chi.
So I really have a wish and a hope that all of you put this condition into place, the condition of bodhicitta, as the kind of starting point for the Dharma, as a way to start listening to the Dharma, as your kind of preparation, what you do at the beginning to start. I really hope you all do that.
Tini second kashi ji yana kama chi sene ngara sama nyamdu ni kiranzu mood khande do dila samlo tane tini mood ki nani mood ki chama ki nani ya tini ten yaksho pendo chesho tini rangshi niga la pendo ya ki mood yana chi sanje tardu sanje tarwa tamji ki bi ko bang tobe ki mood duk mindu chi kiranzu chi yambo chi samlo ta yambo chi takji chiro chi yes mena tini su kulong de su jue chi mur de su jue chi tini de nga na kama chi sana second kashi shuro chi.
So now we can all do this together. We can all examine our mood together and check what is your condition, what is your mood like, and then check if you have if you're in the best mood that it's possible to be in, the best condition for your mind to be in, which is that condition of bodhicitta, which is the most meaningful attitude and the most beneficial attitude, and that attitude which will benefit both ourselves and other beings, and bring us all to the state of the Buddha. So we should all now take a few moments to check ourselves, look at our own mind and check we have that attitude, and if we don't, then to give rise to it.
Tene adringi chudi kenamba sember jawe ki chudi tene jase muju tome ki zebi jase langlendi res.
So the Dharma that you are all listening to today, the teaching that you're all receiving today, is the 37 Bodhisattva practices by Gyaltseng Mushul Tokme.
Tene dela tomar gewa pardu gewa legi tuen tamar gewa jugi tuen sene tene tunje sumchi.
So there's three sections to this text. The virtue at the beginning, which is the introduction of the text, the virtue in the middle, which is the main part of the text, and the virtue at the end, which is the conclusion of the text.
Tene tomar gewa de songsaware tene pardu gewa shungi tuen shung kurang mwen sheba dela tene semji gi ju sheba semji mwen sheba dang tene de semji je labja sheba sumji tama du share.
So now we have finished the first section, the introduction of the text, the virtue at the beginning. And now we are in the virtue in the middle, which is the main part of the text itself. And here we have three sections, which are the causes for bodhicitta, the explanation of a bodhicitta itself, and the trainings of bodhicitta.
Tene semji juju sheba deyan tsar saware semji nguen sheba deyan tsar saware tanang randu sumba semji gi labja sheba dela tukde bares.
So among these three, we finished the first two, we finished the causes of bodhicitta, we finished the explanation of bodhicitta itself, and now we are on the third section, which is the trainings of bodhicitta.
Ni de semji labja sheba dela dene labja zo parchen duk sheba da de gula tensus ni dus tamas sumba dela semji ge labja dela.
So within the this section on the trainings in bodhicitta, there are two subsections. The explanation of the 6 paramitas, the 6 perfections, and the explanation on how to apply this practice to oneself.
Tene ta danda kabzu baba de parchen thuk sheba de te parchen thuk sheba de nane parchen nga jimba sulim soba chunju samde nga de songsar bares den tereng kabzu baba de tene sherab ji paro de jimba sherab parchen thuk de bares ngara.
So we finished, now we're explaining the 6 paramitas, and we finished explaining 5 out of the 6: generosity, discipline, patience, diligence, and concentration. And now we have arrived at the 6th paramita, or the 6th perfection, which is the perfection of wisdom.
And in the Shalogati Sumjula.
This is the 30th verse of the text.
Zawadi Shera Mena Paruchima Yizok Bijanshu Tobar Minupi Tabda de Kursum Mitobi Sherab Gomba Jasilanis.
So this verse goes, the practice of all the bodhisattvas is to cultivate wisdom beyond the 3 conceptual spheres. alongside skillful means. Since it is not possible to attain the perfect level of awakening through the other 5 paramitas alone in wisdom's absence.
Dela shera mena parochinga zobe janju tobar minubi sede da tanda kaps baba de sherab de parochin base sherab sede pe gechembo jires maranzo lakbar do tekba chimbebi kaps baba ni sherab de pe misebe gechembo jires.
So in the last 2 lines in the English, since it is not possible to attain the perfect level of awakening through the other 5 paramitas alone in wisdom's absence. This is, first of all, the practice of wisdom is extremely important. It's extremely important, and especially in this circumstance when we are practicing the Mahayana, it's also particularly important in the practice of the Mahayana.
Sherab mena parochinga sedu sherab mevaina tene ta dangbo sherab sede ha gogo chures sherab sede chö rab de number chipas sherab sede jisumjana chö rab de number chipatela sherab sede chö tham je tongbani togen ke sherab tela lo tela tene sherab sede ra.
So it says in the text, in wisdom's absence, it's impossible to attain awakening in wisdom's absence. But so first of all, we have to understand what is wisdom. And one definition of wisdom is the complete comprehension of phenomena. So this refers to the mind that understands the emptiness of all phenomena.
Tila shirab sere, ta shirab senare, tongni senare, masam jume senare, ta tila Migmar boyora, tuendamba senare, tuendam senare, sama ningi namrangare, tuenda tila tani churab tu nambar shiba sere, shigen tila lo tila sere.
So there's many kind of different terms they give to this concept of wisdom and this faculty of wisdom. There's many kind of synonyms or different terms that are used to describe the same thing. And there's the ultimate reality, the absolute reality, ultimate reality, the inconceivable, inexpressible wisdom. There's different terms that are given to it, but the basic definition is that it is the complete understanding of phenomena.
Nyang shirab sere tila, tanda kapsu baba shirab sila, khorsum midok bi shirab sere, khorsum midok ba. Khorsum sina yul, yulji, action sina tigre, sunga le tini parud chimba se hore, yana sunga to, sunga la lo meba, namdo meba. Tini chila, lo chila shirab sere.
So in this context, when we're talking about the paramita of wisdom, this is so this is the paramita of wisdom, or the perfection of wisdom. And in Tibetan, the translation of the word paramita, they translated in the sense of going to the far side, or crossing over something. So according to how to explain that word, then here what wisdom means is that we have gone beyond, crossed over the three spheres, which are the perceiving subject, the perceived object, and the action, or just in other type of action, just the subject of action, the object of action, and the action itself. Those are three spheres. And so this is wisdom that is beyond the three conceptual spheres. So in one way to explain it, we have gone beyond those three spheres, and what that means is that we have no kind of concepts about these three spheres in the mind.
다시 free from three conceptualization. Yeah.
Is that it? Three conceptualization. I'm going to sphere that.
Sphere.
Chorus.
Chorus and sphere.
Yeah.
남도 숨라.
네.
예제. 되니 셰랍 메나 바로 칭나에 시도자니 셰랍디 다 단다 값을 봐봐. 셰랍 코스um 미독비 셰랍 로세 거래 셰랍세 거래 딜라. 디 페샤나 미기 여바직 미다타 오레스. 미기 여바 미다타 오레스 셰랍. 니 델라 셰랍 메나 시도 바로 침방아 지도아. Tenjingela chimba chunun soba chunun something di mig lomba tabures mig mege mich tabures peshana pena da mi parul di chimba chunun soba chunun something di ngaji doa parul chimba nga de mig lomba nga mig mege mig lomba nga che sherab da parul chimba di mig yobi mig chik che ta mi chik sherab di yoge mig yoge mi dige mig mege nga tambado dirana susu lumba le kya thugures karsina ko mig yora mig nga dela mig midu mig mena da paro de chumba sharab de paro chumba de nga ga grana susu lumba la ko ge de chin thigni ko mig yora kya thugures sharab mena teni mig lumba da gures paro de chumba nga chibu ge tar to thamji kimbe ko fanse bore thugures thugumares pena mig lomba tawres sherab dige tini khorwale tsawani pa marikpa ne pa chal childene tarbana thamjigi bo bobam tobe tini sherab de mena thopto mares mig yoba dan tawres
So when we talk about this wisdom, this kind of understanding, we can make an analogy that wisdom is like somebody with eyes who can see, somebody who is sighted or can see with their eyes. And the other 5 paramitas are like blind people. So so what the wisdom can do, just in the same way that a sighted person, somebody who can see, is able to take these other 5 people who can't see, that sighted person can take those 5 blind people to their home. They can lead them to their home and make sure they get to their home. And if that sighted person is not there, then those people will not be able to get home. They won't be able to go anywhere. And the same way, if we don't have the wisdom, then the other 5 paramitas, the generosity, discipline, patience, diligence, and concentration, those other 5 paramitas are like blind people, that they can't really fulfill their full function and so on. So it is only through the wisdom that these practices are able to bring us to the state of awakening, the state of complete awakening, because the way that what the wisdom will do is it will completely eliminate the ignorance. And then by eliminating ignorance, we are able to progress down the path and attain liberation and attain the state of complete awakening.
인도 셰랍 맨나 바로 청하베스 단다 셰랍 페나 바로도 침방 나디야더니 셰랍기 된다기 치도 숭레스 탑 셰랍 거라체 바로 침바 심바 나디 탑기 치도 되네 페나 존주기 나로라야 연락 때다 탐제니 투비 셰랍 된도 숭레스 상기 페나 연락선도 이 바로 침바 나디 되네 투바기 셰랍기 된다라야 숭레스 마탑 나기 된다라 숭마레스 셰랍 tabgi thandala sharab de sung res dingi di karana sharab dang pena tabni di pa del gores tab da sharab de su del gos chigi chigi tab da dembe sharab sere sharab da dembe tab sere ni du jani niga go res kechum res ina di nang ne tabdu sanji ji ko ma thobar jabala tani sharab mena ni ma du tabdu sanji ko ma thobdu maresasi tab nga yena re jamning je yena re khande yena re tena lat komna re khande tingen jin khande ji komna re tena sharab de mena sanji goma thotu mares.
So the way that this works is that the other 5 paramitas are a method, and ultimately they are a method in order to give rise to wisdom, in order to generate this kind of wisdom that we're talking about, the paramita of wisdom. And so it's just as taught in the way of the Bodhisattva by Shantideva, that the sage, the Buddha, has taught all of these practices, the practice of the first 5 paramitas, for the purpose of wisdom. This is what he taught in that text. So the other 5 paramitas, in a sense, are just a means or a method to generate wisdom. And so, but at the same time, the 2 aspects of wisdom on the one hand, and the method or skillful means of the first 5 paramitas, they have to be connected, and they have to work together. One is helping the other. Both helping each other. So the first 5 paramitas, generosity, discipline, patience, diligence, and concentration. These are the aspect of the method or skillful means, and they have to be joined with wisdom. So when you practice wisdom, you also practice alongside with those skillful means, and at the same time, you're practicing those skillful means for the purpose of generating wisdom. But if you only practice the first 5 paramitas, the aspect of skillful means, then you will not be able to attain awakening or liberation just through those 5. Even if you practice compassion, or these other kinds of practices, or even meditating on the deities, even if you do those practices really well without the wisdom, then those practices will not be able to bring you to liberation or to awakening.
tene ngazo sangi tupki mares tene sungudus korwa ki zawa de namdo res namdo de ba pang ma bang na tene korwa la yangja lo yongres de endo komja kore tene nyomomba se kore namdo de ba meba se kore de se tumna tene kyanzo sangi lela kore sungudus de endo ta shirap sen komja de zo.
So it's just as Tulku Rinpoche used to teach. He used to advise us. So Tulku was saying, when we were staying in retreat, he would always give us the advice and teach us that you guys have to meditate, and you have to eliminate your conceptual thinking, your concepts. And because this is the root of samsara, the root of samsaric existence, are these conceptual thoughts, conceptual thinking. And if you don't eliminate the conceptual thoughts and the conceptual thinking, then you will fall back into samsara. So he would tell us, so this is why you have to meditate. You have to meditate in order to eliminate these conceptual thoughts. So this is the point of the, so that we have to eliminate the our conceptual thoughts, or you can say our afflictive emotions, afflictions, and this is in this way, then we will be able to easily attain awakening, enlightenment.
남도 다자원 매버 수액이 다 lakjase bole so di tan tamne do bishar kosom me do bishar of the grace digi tene marikba te pangtu grace namdo pangtu grace di nyamnyo ani zal jok tamne do bishar kosom me do bishar tene marikba do nyomo ba thamje sawane koram pangtu grace 이마도 냠마뇨나 되네 또 방송 말했어. 당내도 비셔라고 고정도 비셔랍디.
So this wisdom that is beyond the conceptual spheres, or the wisdom that realizes the selflessness, that wisdom is the kind of a method or kind of a tool that we can use to eliminate conceptual thinking. If we have this wisdom and we experience that wisdom first, and then strengthen it within our mind and develop it further and further, then we will be able to eliminate the conceptual thinking and the afflictions. But otherwise, if we don't have this wisdom, it's impossible to eliminate conceptual thinking and afflictions. But if we do have this wisdom, we can completely, completely uproot entirely all conceptual thinking and afflictions.
다 당부 장서다 학고에 조디 나랑조 레 당부 인도 학고에 디 단다 값 바바들라 파르진 drugi 나네 파르진 나디 데니 나랑조 초 사비 값소 미지 소남기 촉세다 미미 셰랍기 촉신 촉니레스 인지 미지 다 파르진 나디 미지 소남기 촉레스 니 디나니 두바 셰랍기 파르드 침바디 미미 이시기 촉니 송주 세워 촉니 송주에나 꾸니 송주 또 토그레스 야나 denpa nyi kapsu shana kunzup ki denpa dang dendam ki denpa denpa nyi sha wa ni kunzup ki denpa di tanda ngarazo parjing ngadi shana digi lam laba lam ki kapsu shana digi ni sharab ki paru di chimba di dendam ki denpa di shana digi ni sumju la to yang ni sumju madan ni tabdang dembi kansa ko de sharab dan jerwi tab se di ni sumju to ko res ani yang sakje sangmi sumju gewa se de gewa la shana sakje gi gewa di parjinga sangmi gi gewa di korsum midopi sharab ji sing ni gewa de la teni arazo sangmi gi gewa se tati inji meji sumju to res sumju to thupna kare chagerasana korwa leya dal teni chigi nyende da rangja gi tarba leya pa dal chini sanji ju koma thop thop res de sumju tok to na kasi dinni de sumju to ma to ba na tongni chigbu tok sharap chigbu gi tok sharap chigbu ji gom yang tap kaya meba jamni ji jangju sem meba chi parjing ngaya meba chi na teni nyende rangja gi sala ta de res sanji goma thop thop ma res yang jam 닝지 지부 곰 파르징아데 곰 동니 가야 마도 바이나 코르발 마롱 그레스 셰랍지 마zen 다 남도로 코르스미도 부시람 지 마신나 그냥 코르발 마롱 그레스 딩이 숨주도 없다 다뚝 산지 고마 토보 토부긴
So we need so as we are mostly at the beginning of the path, or beginners in the practice, we should practice in the following way. We have to approach the practice in the following way. We have to combine these two aspects of skillful means and wisdom. So if we think about in terms of the two accumulations, there's on one hand the accumulation of merit, and on the other hand the accumulation of wisdom. So in this case, the first 5 paramitas, they correspond to the accumulations or the requisites of merit, the kind of provisions of merit. And the paramita of wisdom is, of course, the requisite of wisdom, or the provision of accumulation of wisdom. So we need to have both of these combined, the requisite of merit on the one hand, the accumulation of merit on the one hand of the first 5 paramitas, and then the accumulation of wisdom together with it, combined, unified. And then based on that practice of those two accumulations, then we will attain we combine the two accumulations, then based on that practice of the combination of two accumulations, we will attain the result, which is the combination of the two awakened bodies, the two kayas, the material body, or form body, and the dharma kaya, dharma body. And so we can think about it like that, and then also we can think about it in terms of the two truths. Yeah, the two truths. So on one hand, we have the conventional truth and the ultimate truth. So the first 5 paramitas practice that belongs to the conventional truth, and the paramita of wisdom, the perfection of wisdom, belongs to the ultimate truth. So also we have to approach the practice such that we practice both of these at the same time together. We practice according to the conventional truth, but also according to the ultimate truth combined. And also we can think of it in terms of 2 types of virtue. There's the defiled virtue on the one hand, and then there is the undefiled virtue. So the first 5 paramitas of generosity, discipline, patience, diligence, and concentration, these are related to these practices actually are practices of a defiled virtue, because there's concepts while we're practicing those 5. We are still dealing with concepts and not with ultimate truth. And then the paramita of wisdom, perfection of wisdom, is related to the undefiled or pure virtue, because there are no concepts. So we have to practice both of those together in a combination. Also, the defiled virtue of the first 5 paramitas, I have to practice that alongside with the undefiled virtue, the pure virtue of the wisdom. And if we are able to do that, then we will be able to attain the state of complete awakening. If we're able to practice these 2 in combination, the 2 provisions or accumulations in combination with one another, and the 2 truths in combination with one another, and the 2 those 2 types of virtue in combination with one another. And because if we don't have those 2 aspects in combination and practicing together, then either for example, if we only practice skillful means, the first 5 paramitas, or the conventional truth, defiled virtue, the provision of merit, and so on, if we only practice those 5 paramitas and meditate in a certain way, and we practice compassion and these practices alone, we can't be liberated from samsara, because those concepts are still there. And then likewise, if we only practice the perfection of wisdom, the paramita of wisdom, then we may fall into the nirvana of the individual nirvana of the Shravakas or the Pratyeka Buddhas, and we won't be able to attain complete awakening. So we need to these 2 combined.
Bena Sherab Geparo de Chimba, Dedang Parjin Chimba, Nadi Bena Cha Chuse or Chassedo, but the Shopani Tabures, Tab the Shopachi, Sherab the Shopachi, the Shopanika, you know, the name Tamji Jimbu go on the Pirtugures.
So there's an analogy or metaphor for these 2 aspects of skillful means and the wisdom. On the one hand, the aspect of skillful means of the first 5 paramitas, and the aspect of wisdom of the paramita wisdom. They're like the 2 wings of a bird. So if you have one wing of skillful means together with the second wing of the wisdom, then you'll be able to fly to the state of omniscience and awakening.
The Dangaranzo Suzuki with Tabuchile, di Dabugi Sherab 아니 거기서 메도비 최담지대 랑신도 거기서 메도비 또 투구이나 디셔랍디 딜랑아주 이시에스기레스 이시 데디다보 이시에디 유나 니 나나고 심징이 된 게시모 두투기레스 가르잖아 랑라 뉴바이라 아니 남도 메비가니 심징이 된 게시모 두투기레 남도 메비가나 아 가서고레 나돌라 셀피스 착마레 신 심징이 된다라 조 아니 믹네 되네 심지기 심지 탐지 된 탑도 탐지기 고방 야톱 키트백이 양랑 좀 누바 연구레스 딥시라도 메나 되니 랑 코스um 니도고 차기요 말에 남도 차도 그레스 디 남도 안라 가두이나 랑 제버진 슈크침보 차도 거발로 그레스
So this paramita of wisdom is also referred to as the primordial wisdom, or the yishe in Tibetan, primordial wisdom, or sometimes they translate as wakefulness. So when we have this kind of wisdom, then we will be able to accomplish the welfare of sentient beings on a really vast scale. We'll be able to benefit sentient beings to a really huge extent, on a really vast scale. Because when we have this kind of wisdom, then we will have a kind of higher level of a power or capability to benefit others. And at the same time, we will have much less self-cherishing. We're not really grasping to ourselves and so concerned about ourselves when we have this kind of wisdom. So we will naturally just continually benefit other beings. And then on the other hand, if we don't have this wisdom, then we are kind of stuck in the level of conceptual thinking. And we have this that way of thinking and concepts, and particularly we have this such a strong grasping to ourselves and a cherishing to ourselves, so we won't be able to accomplish the welfare of sentient beings on the same level, the same scale.
Dendu tanda sherab korsub nidobi sherab siedi zo di chö phenomena segura chö thamji gi rangshin nature essence nature chö thamji gi rangshin gi neluk jera neluk se kechimbo go senare neluk senare di manor wa topa lo jera togen lo jera dila sherab korsub nidobi sherab se di hago gores kirang nade gomja mundu chötamjigi ta phenomena se gor chötamjigi rangshin neluk di la namdo meba yul meba yuljin meba ro ani ta dengi jimba tangwala jimba tangsa yuju gora tangbu gore tangge ngarang gore tangjigi yuju gora Karinaji, disumdi namdok sumir. O pango se samlo jungure, tangi ngai samba jungure, nge chala ai samba sumir. Sumja namdok. Ta korsum midok seduzani tangsa yulai zimba meba, temba maduba. Ani tanghe rangyang nga maduba, temba maduba. Ngarang maduba. Hako, ngarang maduba toktu. Ani tangji ki chala jiora ngobuchi. Kari inare, inare, kolo inare, kala ina, sayagi chala kari inaya, dilayang demba maduba. Rangji mariba, chö thamji tanji layamba, nelu, chö thamji ga rangji nelu, di maduba tok tukin jira, madusan namdok meba, demba maduba tok tukin ki lo jira, sherab tila, sherab sir. 다 거스미도 비디 짐바 땅도 있나래 소름 곰도 있나래 소바 이나래 준주 있나래 삼등 있나래 다 거스미도 지 거스음세도 숨도 남도 숨율 유지 아니 잘라 모고 디 숨가라 남도 메빙안나 검잡투기요나 되니 다 그랑고 거스미도 비 셔럽 당원이 검잡기요와 되니 또 투기레스 되니 또 투나 되니 산지 유고바 토베기다 페이지 뉴레스
So these so what we are dealing with here is this wisdom. Oh, yeah, this wisdom has to do with the nature of reality, or the nature of all phenomena. So this is one way to talk about is the nature of phenomena, the nature of reality, the natural state, and so on. And so this is important to understand what this means. What is the natural state? What is the nature of phenomena? So this wisdom is the wisdom that understands the nature of phenomena, understands the natural state, the way things actually are. And so as I mentioned before, this comes down to basically the understanding that there's no true existence or true identity to any phenomena, and basically it comes down to the lack of true existence, the lack of any conceptual reality to these three spheres, which is the agent and the object and the action, or sometimes the subject, object, and the action. Yeah. So and whenever we do anything in our life, we are always dealing with these three spheres. And if we are practicing, for example, generosity and giving something to a beggar, then this practice will involve those three spheres as well. Whatever we're doing will involve those three spheres. So when you give something to a beggar, you have the concept, this really strong appearance or concept that there's this poor person there in front of me, and then I am myself, and I'm giving this money or whatever it is to that poor person, and this money is something real. You have a concept about it, and you think it's real that way. So these are all concepts, conceptual thinking, and so when we meditate and practice, if we can release and dissolve these concepts of the agent, the object, and the action, and we realize, for example, the beggar has no true existence. His true nature is beyond any concept I have about him, or there's no true identity there. And also myself, I have no true kind of fixed identity, real true identity. And this money I'm giving also is not really truly existent. If we can practice in that way, then this it will be very effective to traversing to the path to complete awakening. So if we can meditate in this way also and go beyond those concepts of those three spheres, then this is the way that we will be able to attain complete awakening without too much difficulty.
Oh yeah. Then that's all the dendishin gom gores kiranzoda 탑 단덴비 셔랍 덴비 탑 니디 송주 고메이나 다 짐바 땅오나 땅두 되니 땅사의 유 당게게랑 당지기 뭐보 디숨라야 되니 짐바 메바 나네 땅투바이나 셔랍 지심바레스 되니 술림 숭바이나 데데랑데 그냥 디니가라 덴디치니 곰바이나 되니 미치선남 미초야 조고요레 밍미 이시기 초야 조고요레스 네네 된담바니 된담바다 군주기 된바니야 숨주 도고요레스 네 개와야 sakji gewa다 상미 개와야 숨주 도고요레스 디니가 냠도 드네 곰 지투바이나 페나 짐바 땅두 마땅이 삼바기 나자메 바신 땅제기 잘라라야 덴바 마두바레 삼바 라야 덴바 된라 마두바레도 삼바 디니지 땅제기 모부데야 디니지 된라야 덴바 마두바레 삼니 디니지 짐바지 땅바이나 아니 말아도 짐바 로 짐바지도 짐바디 뇽로 차기레스 짐바 뇽로 차나 랑아자 뇽로 차레 남도 뇽로 차 나자 뇽로 차나 디니 칸소고레 마릭파 지게 똑똑그레스 곰고레스 다티 시에바잠기 디기 마레스 터바잠기 디기요 마레스 곰고레스 다 짐바 땅들을 주름 디인도 숨줄 곰고레스 인지 미지 니가 냠볼로 트로토바지고 인도tum나 다니게 페인이 단 슈바인바 코르발라 롱구마레 니도란제기 살라야 마 롱구마레 니 산지주고마 똑똑그레스
So this is so the way we have to practice this is, as I said before, Tsukula was saying, as I said before, with the aspect of skillful means and the aspect of wisdom combined. So so for example, if you going back to those three things that are combined before also, we have to combine the accumulation of a merit or the provisions of a merit that has a reference point with the accumulation of wisdom that is beyond reference point. We have to combine those two on the one hand. So for example, when we give something to a beggar, we have to release our grasping to what we are doing, to ourselves and to the object of the action and to what we're giving. We have to let go of the grasping at those things as being really real. And if we can practice in that way, then when we see the beggar and we give them money, we just release a kind of a grasping and a focus on ourselves. And in that way, then also our pride will be reduced when we're doing these kinds of practices. And also the thing that we're giving also can let go of any kind of a grasping to that, and let go of fixation or grasping on the beggar himself. And in this way, this is how to combine these two aspects of skillful means and wisdom together. So in that way, then we will be able to to gain the accumulation of merit and the accumulation of wisdom combined together. And this is also the way to realize the conventional truth and the ultimate truth combined together. And it's also the way to accumulate and to practice the defiled virtue together with the undefiled virtue. This is exactly how to do that, to kind of release our grasping or fixation on ourselves and what we're doing and on the object. And the benefit of practicing in this way is that we will, just as I explained before, to go say, we will, on the one hand, we'll avoid falling into samsara because we have the aspect of the wisdom. On the other hand, we will avoid falling into the individual liberation of the Shravaka and the particular Buddha because we have the skillful means.
Tene tap de inji mi ji ko re siang ta ji yanla de da tham ji ne to be sharap den to song se jira tap go res pena tham mena ya kale yong res pena nge ma kadam ba yora goma kadam ba nyamne ji ni ju pe sha pe ya ema jalbu ji res piji ki ko ni me jire jalbu di chumu mangbo 아니 jalbu kurang ma la tos ta ma ro ndo kurang ge zumu mangbo ge nang ne ta kurang ge ga sho zumu je sa kurang pe love one specific his wife tene nima ji ta jalbu ma ro ra ma ro ndo kurang top ko ra ya ma top na ko concentrate chi ko ra ma ji na ma sho du ko ra ti ndo kurang zumu de tong sa kurang ga sho ge zumu de tong ba res 종용도 되니 종세월에 시세월 딱하리나 되니 lumbo 탑 캐바지 lum보지 탑 캐바지 거랑 삼로 땅서 오다 주모 거랑 결국에 가쇼 주모디 시사송 데니지니 코나라 메시지 땅송나 렌지 땅송나 갸보 셈바 나기레 아니 막라 컨센트레이트 투 마르 막 도구마 거랑 좀 로용 그래 되니 lum보디기 탑 캐바지니 얘기지 땅았어 Jabulas and Karangi Tumo Karang Gasho Zumodi Ngola Ngodo Burdoma Bodendulas Naza for dollars Tamburi Dance Ani DJ Dan Ani Jalbugi oh ya and the Semba do you mare oh call the Naza for do tendo Tene Zumushi Sarda in the top cabbage in Lombodi and I Nibagi Yigi dance lumbo디 탑케바디 jalbula 갸보 저랑게 좀모디 다 나자디 류보 상마라 갱차도 나자 나자 독부디 단지 몰래라다 수부 상마라 캡차도 라양도 이게 제 당스 아니 갸보디 아체 닝제 다뭐 나자디 수부 상마라 근데 캡데나 텔레 모라시나 가기레 삼니 레스네 아니 이게 수당 베스 갸보디 Tene sumba de la lumbodigi tang o kerang zumu di shisa zong la tang reze tati ta do ko tap ke ba chi do o jalbo tani ko jalbo semba dugu chi bar ta ko na de do tene ni ko ma la khazun te chi do ma top ni dene chi yong do ta sharap chi bu yo na midigi lamsan jalbo la kerang o sharap ke ba ji lamsan ko ra kerang zumu do dong do la shi do la na ko jabu semba phamje ma sama yugni ko concentrate chido mara te semba pham gre ma shor gre ne tene chiungdu yaboyo mares tap gores tap tani mina je tap ten tarsum yigi da chuma shi sar de ko te neba du ende lab ne tap kheba chires tap gores
so this the practice of skillful means is actually very important. We should not neglect this aspect of skillful means. As it was said by Shantideva, as it was taught by Shantideva, the Buddha has taught all of these practices the practices of a skillful means for the purpose of wisdom. So there's a reason that he taught all of them. He took care to teach those practices. So, and this is illustrated by a story that was taught by the Kadampa masters of the past. So there was a king in the past who had many queens. He had many wives and many different queens. But among all of those queens, he had one that was his really his favorite, the one that he really loved the most. And one time this king went to war, and while he was in the battle, this favorite queen of his died. And the thing is that his ministers had to inform him of this, but the thing is that he had to concentrate on the battle. He had to, in order to win the battle, which is very important, he had to put his full attention on there. So if he heard that his queen died, then he would not be able to concentrate and he would not be able to win the battle. So there was one very intelligent and skilled minister who he used his skillful means, you can say, to help the situation. And what he did is he first sent a message to the king as he was in battle, that, oh, your queen has she has a kind of a disease on her skin, and she has a different kind of boils on her skin, different sores or boils on her skin. And then after some time, he sent another letter that said, oh, now that disease has gone over the entire body of the queen. She is now completely, her body is completely covered in these sores. And then the king wrote back and said, oh, that's it. Maybe it's okay then if she dies, it's not so bad. So, and then finally the minister wrote another final letter and said, oh, since I wrote you last, your queen has now died. And so then the king was not as upset because the queen was already so in that condition. Because of the skillful means of the minister, the king was not as upset, and he was able to win the battle. So this practice of skillful means then is very important in this way, all the activities that we may undertake.
That's all the dela. Zawadila. Zogbe Janju Tobar Minubi, Sherab Mena, Sherab Mena, then Zogbe Janju Sidu, Sanji Jukovan Top Nugima Reser, Tap down Denshin, Tap Sidu, Tangilamaba, Tap D, Jimba Sudim Supa Jundu, something, the Tap and Denshin, Corsum Midogbe Sidu, any Corsum Midogba Sidu, that Tandangel Nesung Neshuimba, Jimba Tangu, Jimba Tangsa, you, Tambo, Eugene Rang Tambabo. 당지기 오보 디숨가 되니 탑 다짐바 출륜 소바 준비 삼된 창마 딜라야 코르소 미도비 셰랍 진지 미지 곰고레스 디 곰바이나 되니 산지지 고마 톱톱기레스.
So to sum it up, as the verse says here, since it is not possible to attain the perfect level of awakening in wisdom's absence, so we need this wisdom that realizes, that is beyond the three conceptual spheres. We need that alongside with the skillful means. And here what skillful means refers to is the first five paramitas of generosity, discipline, patience, diligence, and concentration. Because with wisdom, we only have the other 5 paramitas, we will not be able to attain the perfect level of awakening. If we have those without a wisdom, we won't be able to attain the perfect level of awakening. So we need to practice this wisdom beyond the 3 conceptual spheres. And so whatever we do, whether we're practicing generosity or discipline or any of those other 5 paramitas, we have to release the fixation on ourself as the agent of the action, on the thing that we are doing, the action itself, and on the object of the action. So if we release our fixation on that and kind of dissolve those concepts, then this is the way that we be able to attain the perfect level of awakening.
Dila peto shana tati chimba tangdo re dis korsum sumja la tene rangshingi maduba chunangi sunyin da bosir pena chunang la sunyin sharbay na sunyin kawadu takji tang na sunyin yegi mara chunang lo la reflection of the water kare sharbay na sunyin na shi yana rainbow chazuen na shi yana melong nangi sukta melong nang le charang ngotong bay na melong che de na yegi mara rangshingi maduba korsum tangsa yuljin tangji ki ngobo tham je rangshingi maduba re sen gom teni kare ta jamningji gom na re jimba chudun soba chundu samde kare gom na ya teni sherab ji se sintu ba ina teni ngarang zo pento ko res ta tamba to matu na gom ne ti ta tamba maduba re rangshingi maduba re melona yi sunyi da bare chaje na ji re samne ko 즉 samne di imaginary se do tene samna digiris gom na digimaris.
So the key point when we're practicing the paramita of wisdom, this paramita of wisdom, which is beyond the 3 conceptual spheres, the key point is to keep in mind or to meditate. And if you haven't realized it completely yet, to kind of imagine or have this thought. At first it can be a thought or imagine that none of those 3 spheres is truly existent, to kind of to meditate on the true nature of those 3 spheres and the true nature of phenomena. So what this true nature is like a reflection in the water. When we have some clear water and there's a reflection of something in there, we can see that thing, we can see that reflection in the water. We can see the thing that's reflected in the water, but that thing is actually not there. When if we will try to find the object that's reflected in the water, we can't find it. There's nothing there. Or also, it's also like a rainbow in the sky. Also likened to a rainbow in the sky, that there's nothing ultimately there if we try to grasp it or get to it. And or like a reflection of our face in the mirror. And when we look at our face in the mirror, we can see our face. But if we try to find the face there, there's nothing there. There's no face there actually. So this is the way to practice when we're combining skillful wisdom and practicing this paramita of wisdom beyond the 3 conceptual spheres. When you're practicing generosity, then you just keep in mind and meditate on the fact that you yourself don't really truly exist, and the thing you're giving doesn't exist, and the object doesn't exist. Whether you're practicing compassion or any of these other practices of discipline and so on, all of those practices, we just keep in mind that we don't exist, and our practice doesn't exist. Actually, the action that we're doing doesn't exist, and the object doesn't exist. And if you haven't realized this fully yet, it's really good. Also, it's really good to imagine that in a way, to meditate in that and cultivate this kind of understanding. This is really essential and important to do that.
네, 네, 더보지 검토바이나 곰바이나 네, 단다 값수 바방가랑소 택바침부기 취세 대행의 공도 쉬바인바 택바침부 취세의 셔럽디 바로지마 네, 택바침부기 취 양다바 자기 유레스 네, 택바침부기 취 남닥 자기 유레스 남다. 네, 택바침부 취디 드발라 택바침부 취디 견메바지 그룹토그레스 견메바. 아니 데이터부 지기 두키 셰랍 냠낸 지겐디 되니 장주선바. 남 장주선바는 줄레스 아니 데이터부기 냠낸 지겐들라 되니 장주선바. 되니 laklen easy gora nyamne laklen chigi res.
So as now we are practicing the Mahayana path, this kind of wisdom, the paramita of wisdom belongs to the Mahayana practice. This is one fundamental practice of Mahayana. So if you are able to practice in the way that I have just instructed you, Tugula says, if you're able to cultivate this understanding that of the wisdom beyond the three conceptual spheres, then this will be the authentic practice of the Mahayana. This will become, your practice will become the authentic practice of the Mahayana, and it will become pure Mahayana practice, really perfect, pure Mahayana practice. And it will be the Mahayana practice which is completely faultless, with no fault. And so when we are able to practice in this way, the people who practice in this way, the practitioners who do this, are the Bodhisattvas, practicing the Mahayana. So this is why it says here, the practice of all the Bodhisattvas is to cultivate wisdom.
Today, the drink this Sherabji Faruchimba. Shalogare, to Masa. That's Parjin Tutsarwa. That the Juladini, the Yamlichi and Kor Poktos rest in Pejitadus.
So that's it for today. Now we have finished the practice of the paramita of the wisdom. And Tugala is saying, I haven't been able to do more than one verse each session, but as we find. And then when continuing on, we will go into the section which is on basically instructs you how to put this into practice, how to apply it to oneself.
The native way, no?
So now if you have any questions, please ask. Yeah, the kyoto.
Two tension I think.
Yeah. Question. So one question. I understand that in order to continuously accumulate merit and wisdom, I need to practice the paramitas continuously. The that means that I will not only practice the paramitas during meditation session or chanting, but also that I need to practice during daily life activities. For example, when I'm eating, walking, and talking, I can also accumulate merit, right? If that is the case, can you Tugula, analyze the practice of the 6 paramitas within one worldly activity so that I can practice accordingly? For example, when eating and drinking, how can I practice generosity, patience, diligence, etc.?
Okay. Then Tekwa chimbo na ne deni ngaranzo do tekpare ani sanga ge tekpare niga e kapsu pena kirang sawe kapsu sanji ge sung yores ani sae di pena nga khala ji sa gi yi nge khala de kharichin sa gi yores na pena nga subu ya boji cha nga thangbo cha a devo cha di cha so na teni nge ge simje tham ji gi chedu teni nge mahomba la sanji isa la mangbu ji ya ko thu res di ko bar cheba la nga thangbo ngore thangbo je che tu nga khala ya sa ko du di sana nge simje tham ji gi chedu teni ninse me ba nge simje gi tan la chen thu res samme de khala sa go res di sa ba ina sa cha ne teni masa gong do ya teni range sangi chu gendin ana sanga gi chu chi nge na chawa sum teni kusum the chama la teni lama yedam khando chama la ya choba bu ni rang khari sa na re kolo kon ba na re tangba ya choba bu chawe jala teni sa chawe jala teni bu choba bu yo ya na rang gi kulong ya bo chi ne sa jo di chama simje thamji gi den la pa ngo wa chi de gewa chung re da ina ya da di la ya ngone kulong ya bo chi sim ning go ru bi ting ne chi ba ina simje tham la ba ngo chawe jala ni ngo wa de la ya ni ngo wa jetum ba se re khorsum mido bi ngo wa se re de dangi da changju simba da sanji gi ma do thuge ma re ngara zu da jetum ba samji ngo wa chi na de ge sanji da changju simba danda yera jambal ba ji da kim ko do samba de da kunji jesu da lo ke ba chu da khare je ko na ba dusum je sanji re changju simba re ko kande ji ngo de na shi nge ge wa de ya konzo na shi ngo gi samne ngo바이 삼네 콘나 베게와디 코르좀 미도비 게와 나조 코르좀 미도비 게와 뭐 두고 말이 이나야 콘나 베게 제스 튼 콘나 베게와 카리 요바 제스 이랑 진네 뭐와 이나 저랑 오네 사도 냐 카리 탑스 이나야 셈바드네 진네 키바이나 테니 단다 지딩기 케랑조 만딩기 미셀라야 게와 뚜뚜 그레스 Benaya rang sawa na simje tham ji chi do sai samba do ro khumba ina de lega ji chi na o nga tene lega ji chi gi nge simje semba sangbu ji chi gi nga tene lung lang gi me nga tene mi jemba la dukja chi gi me mi jemba la ya ne kya gi me samne nge tene lega ji go chu gi nda sam kono ya po ji ki ti ki sawe chala tene rang la jimba shira me bi ngon khorsum mi dos na nam do shira me bi nga lega le de na diers 그냥 순함 저도 그래 이게 저도 그래 니가
개보 춘춘 잡아 통이게나
내가 따나 중중으로 띵가서 미바하 곰기민도 나다게 민도 아니 곰잡기민도 이나야 니게 드부 첨보다 내가 대 중중이나 드부 첨보도 가능성 계란 꿀렁 남다게 보면 치래 삼바 게담이기 제다 레게데 순이 지중 드메도 삼바 게담이게레 개와 지중 도구를 마도 실로기 계란 추지지 곰자와나 추지지 등등등등 마등 데발라 개와 첨부차게 요 말. 셈바 첨부에는 개와 첨부차게. 셈바 중중에는 개와 첨부차게 요 말. 중중차게래. 개와 체중세야디 measure디 셈바 honest 이메다. 그냥 그 꾸롱하고 유멜라다리 그랬어.
So, for example, if you are eating your meal, then whether you are practicing the sutra level or the tantric level of the teachings, you can, when you eat the meal, you can give rise to the following motivation that you say, oh, I'm going to eat this meal because I need to eat good food in order to stay healthy and to live long. And because it's only by staying healthy and living long that I will be able to attain the state of Buddhahood, a state of awakening, and be able to accomplish the welfare of sentient beings. And so I will now eat this food so that I can take care of my health, and so that eventually I will be able to work for the welfare of other beings continuously, day and night. So this is one way to bring the practice into your daily activities, such as eating. And if you're approaching it from the sutra level, then also before you eat or before you put on some new clothes that you just bought, or use something you just bought, what you can do is offer that to the three jewels on the sutra level, to the Buddha, Dharma, and the Sangha. And then on the tantric level, you can offer it to the three roots, the guru, the yidam deity, and the dakinis. Or you can offer it to the three awakened bodies of a Buddhahood, of the level of Buddha. And so this is kind of practice. It seems very like a small, but in fact, if you have this kind of a motivation, the really pure motivation that you're offering this food or whatever it may be to the three jewels and the three roots and the three kayas, three awakened bodies, if you have a really pure motivation, and then after you eat or after you offer those things, you then dedicate that merit to all sentient beings, so that all sentient beings may attain awakening, then this is a really huge merit. This is actually very profound and a powerful thing to do. And then when you going about your daily activities, other kind of daily activities, whether you're at work or at home, whatever you're doing, if especially when you wake up in the morning, if you can give yourself this motivation with your practice to make the kind of commitment and intention that today I'm not going to harm anyone, I'm not going to hurt anyone with my words, I'm not going to say, bad things or negative things to anyone. I'm going to try to help people as much as I can. If you make that kind of intention throughout your daily activities, and then at the same time try to release your fixation on the phenomena, on the agent, the object, and the action, to practice the paramita of wisdom in that way, whatever you're doing, if you're sleeping or sitting and eating, even watching TV or whatever it is, or talking with somebody, and just try to cultivate this understanding of that none of those things truly exist, that you don't exist, the thing you're doing doesn't exist, and the object also doesn't exist, then you will be able to practice these two aspects of skillful means and wisdom together in that way. And so this is actually a very important and powerful practice to do, because it all depends on the motivation. If you have this pure motivation of a bodhichitta, and you are doing this in order to free all the sentient beings, to help all the sentient beings in a really pure way, then it will be very powerful practice. And there's some line that says the virtue and non-virtue depends on your intention. It doesn't depend on like the appearance or the form of what you're doing. So even if you are like meditating on development stage deities for a long time and doing different rituals with the drums and different instruments and so on, if you don't have this intention, this is not actually really beneficial and doesn't really do very much. But if you do have this really pure intention in your daily activities in the way that I just described, then that will be very powerful.
코랑기때나 가세두스나 파르진 죽라도 땡이 도기 로게 파르진 죽 계란소 레갈라 가르치 고레스나 답데버레스 뭐망이 싱가포르 되와라 기겐주링이 코랑라 기지신스 페나 짐바 짐바 땅스 다 짐바 칸디진 공고레스 레갈라 두두세고라 페나 짐바 페레로 베리 심보 페나 키랑 사야지 나레 깨제님 보지 나레 추이 나레 가레 약보지 나레 키랑 오피스를 도나 키랑 톡보 도모 수이 나레 걸릭든 저 참말에 쉐르지 짐바레스 페나 산지 좀네디 짐바 채널에 양 우이 메바이나 짐바 따야 알레 우이 미두세나 네 산지기 짐바 채널 짐바 따야기 시담바레스 키랑 믹도 믹야보 진짜 아주 레갈 보도 믹베 믹록다기로 마가오 남주 따라나 야고 말에 믹베 잠닝지기 나는 믹다베네 짐바레 아니 게머셔 스마일 give the smile and also jimba 아니 삼로 야고당 카리 미 레가 레기에나 지수 이랑 지와이나 대한 짐바레스 아니 류기 남주리 야고치니 구샵시 밀라 hello how are you 라이든 주도 and have a nice day said and so indicate then so jimbares they cannot did chidukuras obviously you no need to really bring thousands of dollars, right? You can give all those things te jimbares jimba chidukuras which is this one
so any the Singapore la krangi again
mare chira ngegi gigen mare lobda gigen jure korang la parjin tu kharechine legungla condition yamle chigores ngi tutuji shubanis and kinamba shuguyus.
So this question is about how to practice those 6 paramitas in a daily life activity. So I can give you, it's actually quite easy. I can give you one example. For example, with the practice of generosity. If you go to your workplace, for example, and bring everybody some food or something like that, and you can share the food with people you work with, right? This actually is actually the practice of generosity. And the Buddha has actually taught that you don't actually have to give a physical object to practice generosity.
If you don't have.
Right, if you don't if you don't have it. If you don't have it, then you can practice generosity in many different ways. For example, you can the way that you look at people. If you look at people with a very kind eyes, then this is this is actually the practice of generosity. You're giving them a kind of a nice feeling and giving them a kind eyes, so to speak. And then also, if you can give people a nice smile.
Just now smile.
Yeah.
Smile.
Give people a nice smile. So rather than looking at people, with the kind of a dark or angry angry expression,
like Mahakala,
yeah, like a Mahakala, the dark one, then rather than doing that, you can practice generosity by giving people a nice smile and a nice look with the eyes. And even your good thoughts actually is also taught to be generosity. If you just think something, I hope they do well, and so on, just in your mind, this is also generosity. And so
gesture. Nice gesture.
And also they giving kind of showing people are giving people like a nice respectful gestures with your body. The way that you carry body is also in a way to give
respect.
Give respect.
Good gesture, huh? Not like it. Hello is not nice, right? People think, what happened? No, touch the leg means they feel very honored or feel welcome. Right? Oh, did it, Jimba. There is no need to really. Jimba means you give something, right? You can give those things. Jimba. That's ultim. Parjin Ruganani Niba the Sultim Seduzani Tuldang Tumba Sido Sultim Tuldang Tumba means whatever you doing Kerang Karichina Lega office Lutona Tuldang Tumba. Office ki rule regulation Tidang Tumba. Obviously don't sleep, you sleep. It's not Sultan Tumba. Right? Obviously stand up, you sit down. Obviously sit, you stand, go and smoke. It's not Sultan Tumba. Sultan Tumba, lega khari, lena ya, lega ki kona rule dang, nyambola ya bo, jin doba ina. Ani Sultim daga re. And dele hilaks tekba chimbo yang Sultim chigi na khari Sultan Tumba lunga yisumgi khari lega lena ya namjur re lunga yisumgi Sultim khari cheba ina ya simje thamji ki chedu chigi samba ina te Sultim ni na Sultim yakshudre. Rangaja ki tenda mahimba simji ki tenda la tene Sultim jisumba ina. Tadangi lunga yisumgi khari sumba ina de ta Sultim yakshudre.
So so it's very easy actually how to do these practices within our daily life. So if we think about the next paramita of discipline, this word in Tibetan is Tulchim, which means Tul meaning the way. And so the word discipline in Tibetan, Tulchim, means going along with the proper way. The Tul, going along with the way, proper way. So if you're in your workplace, for example, there's a certain rules and way that you're supposed to conduct yourself. And so when you are working in the office, this is actually also a practice of discipline to conduct yourself according to the rules of the office. So, for example, if at a certain time you are supposed to sit down, but then you stand up, then this will not be right, and it's not really according to the proper way. Or if everybody is supposed to be standing up and doing something, and you sit down and have a cigarette or something like that, then this is also not according to the proper way. So you can combine this also with this not conceptualizing three spheres, wisdom beyond the three spheres. And then whatever kind of practices that we have in the Mahayana, practices of discipline that we may be doing, to also practice these, and not, first of all, it's not for your own benefit, but for the benefit of all the sentient beings. If you follow these discipline, whether it's through your body, speech, and your mind, we have all these discipline kind of ways of conduct, right? If you do all of those aspects of the conduct of your body, speech, and mind, not for yourself, but for the benefit of all sentient beings, and not for your own kind of a pride or conceit about yourself, but for the welfare of all sentient beings. And that if you also combine it with cultivating the understanding of the wisdom beyond conceptual spheres, the three conceptual spheres, then this is the way to practice discipline.
심지 담지기 제도서봐 줄림 송스레더니 다 줄림 소바 다 소바디 소바 검사 약쇼데레스 기랑소 레갈레살 봐 소바딜라 율고레 율디다 레갈레살 보스레 컬리그레 사마 소바 검사 율레 근데 율 유에살라더니 소바 검투바이나 소바 타보 까투메스레 되니 까투 다 초소고에나 소바 타보 초 이 초기 나는 초조하게 나는 탑이 약쇼디 소바고메들이 되니 소바고면서 율고래 율되니다 오비스라 요래 때데 약쇼디 소바고면서 릴레드나 소바고면서 율요 말 되니 소바고마고 비주미도 율메라 되니도 다 오비스라 소바고면도 검사 율레 요레스.
So then when we get to the practice of the paramita of patience, this is the best place for all of us to do this. Is oftentimes will be our workplace. If we have all these people in our workplace, our boss, colleagues, and so on. We have these objects of patience there, because as we have learned, we need the object in order to practice patience. And you have that object that means to practice patience right at your workplace, right there. And so this is a really great way to complete the accumulations, to complete those provisions of the merit. It's really the best method of the practice of patience, as is taught by Shantideva. There's no ascetic spiritual practice or spiritual practice involving a hardship, which is like patience. Patience is the supreme among all ascetic spiritual practices. And so there's no, so you have the objects to practice patience with around you in that way. And if you go to the mountain to retreat, there's nobody around you to practice patience with there. So it's actually a better opportunity in your daily life to practice patience.
shenle nyobi sem pang ni shenle pembi gi semji ngone lega le de na ta dila lega le gi miyu zo de ni 这个先了偏先了那么些的古龙ji那了真的去对吧呢내가 다 내가 디 직딩이 내가로 이나야 디 꿀롱야 부지키니 semba 상부지키니 내가 레디거래 준주치네 좀만 갈라도 와스 니 지기 준주 차도 거래 직딩이 내가 레나야 준주 첨보진 딜라 개발이 직부터와 매 내가 레 또와치 내가 레 직딩이 내가야나 딜라 준주 차게 그랬어.
So then when we get to the paramita of the diligence, there's a definition that we have learned just before of diligence is taking joy in virtue. And so what is virtue actually? It's actually, here we can understand it as the good intentions or a positive good heart, good intentions and a good heart. So when you're in your workplace and whatever activity you're doing, have to do in your work with your colleagues, if you take this kind of a very good intention, a positive altruistic intention, altruistic motivation, that you want to help others and you don't want to harm others, you want to benefit others, then even though that what you're doing is in a way a worldly activity of going to work, this is also actually the practice of diligence, paramita of diligence, if you can practice in this way. So in this way, also even undertaking what we normally think of as worldly activities, this can become the practice paramita of diligence.
Something the kiranzo mangjiwa hago shimbare mindfulness. Kare lega leba ina ya dila sen number mahing bachini sen sejik du lega le dewa na ni something chart goris sejik du lega kare lena yigi thina re kare china sejik du tenshi bayo dan dem bachini lega le dewa na something chart goris.
So then when we get to the paramita of concentration, you can I think you all know about this kind of practice. It's also often taught nowadays everywhere as a mindfulness and so on. So if you, when you're concentrating on your work, if you kind of focus on that job and maintain your concentration on the job and maintain your mindfulness and the awareness of what you're doing and staying on the track with that job in that way, then that will be the practice of paramita of concentration.
Ni sherab ji bar chimba komse de te tayin shu sabare che korsom medo zimba mashuba yula zimba mashuba yujin la zimba mashuba ngobo la action la zimba mashuba zimba mebe ngane khare lega le ba ina ya le de na tini di sherab ta tham sherab ji paru chimba chagers pajin tupat.
So and as for the paramita of wisdom, I have just explained this to Tulku. Whatever you're doing, any activity you're doing, if you can release and let go of fixation on the agent of the action yourself as the agent of the action, the object of the action and the action itself, if you can maintain this kind of understanding that none of these things are truly existent and release that fixation or grasping on those three spheres as being real, this is the practice of paramita of wisdom in any of your daily activities.
디 셰랍디 파진 아가를 자르고 그랬어. 짐바츠는 소바츠는 선데 셰랍 숨갈 자르고 그랬어. 자, 둥아가.
Uh-huh. And so the thing about the practice of a paramita of wisdom is that you can practice it together with any of the other 5 paramitas, generosity, discipline, and so on. Practice it combined with those 5.
Okay. Di jugla jigdo di khares teaching di jugla insido you understand to what's up?
Rela, these kerang zikirgis.
Oh, digires.
Digres.
Okay. Shamba de.
Shamba is a mane.
Piki dala. Mindu las. Tani that ring the is shooting day. Kenamba nyembi gewa ngegi shebi gewa. The tama dom de tene. Simjet ham jigi to the movies.
Okay, so now we excuse me. So now we are going to dedicate the merit for the benefit of all sentient beings.
So namdi damje zibani domne bandana damje ne kega daje bala trapani sibe tole do chanju sinjurim boje maje pana keba nyamba meba yangone gondo belwara shu dumba jine kamsu jumba da temba niwi shindo saw denzen lob darjin yeba ye temba yurine bendaji